Hello? You are about to watch a 2-hour video, and absolutely nothing special will happen during these 2 hours. I will talk about unimportant things, about objects that have no feelings, things you see every day, but never really notice. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just going to talk in a flat, calm voice, because I believe even the meaningless, if told long enough, becomes worth listening to. If you need to sleep, or just need something boring but honest, you've come to the right place. I talk, you sleep, don't bother. And if you're still awake, let's begin with something very simple. A chair. The chair. Just a chair. It doesn't glow. It has no motor. It's not smart. And more importantly, it doesn't talk. It just exists. I don't remember the first time I sat on this chair. Maybe it was a forgettable afternoon, like hundreds of other afternoons. I sat, the chair stayed silent, and from then on, we began a wordless relationship. It never calls you, but it's always there. The chair has never said my name. It never invited me to sit, never asked to be cared for. But whenever I needed to sit, it was there. No complaints, no judgment, no conditions. Like a quiet friend who never makes a big entrance, but also never leaves. I once sat on it for 3 straight hours, 3 hours, doing absolutely nothing. No reading, no scrolling, no talking, just sitting, back against the backrest, feet flat on the ground, hands resting on my thighs, occasionally shifting posture for no particular reason, just sitting. I looked out the window, then at the wall, then at the floor, then at nothing. The chair had no opinion on that. It didn't rush me, didn't evaluate me. It accepted all the silence I offered, the wordless loyalty of a lifeless object. A chair doesn't betray you. It doesn't leave you for someone else. It doesn't run away when you gain weight. You could spill coffee on it. It won't get upset. Leave it out in the rain. It might mold, but it won't complain. It endures, not because it wants to, but because that's what it was made for. When I left, the chair stayed behind. It didn't chase after me, didn't say goodbye, didn't quietly cry. It just stood there, alone in a quiet room. I thought of all the times I walked past it without noticing, the times I sat for a second and left in a rush, the times I tossed my jacket on it and didn't look back. And I wondered, how many chairs have I left behind like that? A simplicity worth admiring. The chair doesn't want to be a table. It doesn't dream of being a bed. It doesn't try to become human. It's just a chair, and it's proud of it. So many people spend their lives trying to be something else, someone else, and end up being nothing much. But the chair, it's simple, and it fulfills its purpose perfectly. The kind of thoughts you only have when sitting on a chair. I once thought, do chairs get lonely? If you place 2 chairs side by side, do they have silent conversations? If a chair is left in the attic for 5 years, does it feel abandoned? I know these questions are meaningless, but they arrive when you sit long enough, when the mind is free to wander, when you just sit. The chair, a symbol of quiet acceptance. The chair doesn't care who you are, old or young, thin or heavy, happy or broken, famous or forgotten. It has only one message. You can sit on me, and I will hold you. That is enough. You only notice the chair when it breaks. You don't thank the chair when it works. But when a leg gets wobbly, you curse. When the back creaks, you frown. And when it's gone, you replace it. But it feels different because the old one was more familiar than you realized. There are people in your life, just like chairs, not loud, not dramatic, not in the spotlight, not trending, but there's your go, always there, holding you up when you are tired, when you fall, when you say nothing, but need support. It might be your mother, your father, an old friend who rarely texts, a teacher you forgot to thank. Like a chair, they don't demand, they just hope you remember. I've sat on many chairs, but no chair felt like the one I sat on that day. Not because it was special, but because I sat long enough to notice. And sometimes a chair can teach you how to be grateful. The button, small but it can trap you. The button, a small round piece of plastic, or sometimes wood, or sometimes metal. But most of the time, we never ask what it's made of, because the truth is, we don't really care. The button exists not to stand out. It exists to close things, to hold them together, to prevent them from opening. That's it. That's the job. It does not shine. It does not beep. It does not connect to Wi-Fi. It just buttons. We wear buttons every day on t-shirts, on jackets, on pants we no longer wear. We push them through the hole and move on. We don't notice the button until it's gone. One day I was getting dressed. I picked up a shirt I had worn 100 times. I buttoned the first, then the second, then the third, and then there was no fourth. It was gone, missing. The button had disappeared, quietly, no warning, no goodbye, just gone. And at that moment, I realized how much I needed it. Not emotionally, not spiritually, but practically. I needed the button. I stood there, holding my shirt closed with one hand, thinking, remembering, wondering, where did it go? Did I lose it while walking? Was it in the washing machine? Did it fall under the couch? Or did it decide to leave? I know, buttons can't leave. But that's the thing about buttons. They disappear without asking. I thought about sewing on a new one, but I didn't have the same kind. So I took one from another shirt. Now that shirt is missing a button too. The cycle never ends. You fix one thing, you break another. That's buttons. And sometimes, that's life. We trust buttons. We trust them to stay, to hold, to keep things together. But they are small, and small things slip away. I thought, Jade, about all the buttons I've touched in my life, all the ones I've fastened, all the ones I've struggled with, especially when in a rush, or with wet hands, or half asleep. There's always that one rebellious button that won't go in the hole. You twist, you force, you sigh, but it resists. until finally it snaps in and you feel victorious over a button, a small, stubborn circle. But sometimes the button wins. It pops off during an important meeting, or while you're in public, or worse, at a wedding. You panic, you hide, you act like nothing happened. Because how can you explain that your life just came undone because of a button? And then there are fake buttons. Buttons that exist, but don't actually do anything. Decorative, symbolic, like people who show up but don't help. I have a coat with 3 fake buttons. They sit there, pretending, looking important, but offering no function. I keep wearing it anyway. Sometimes I wonder if I'm a button in someone's life. Am I the one that holds things together? Or the one that fell off long ago and was never replaced? Or maybe the fake one, the one that looks like it matters, but doesn't really do anything. The button is a metaphor, but it's also just a button. You don't think about it until it's not there. You don't miss it until you need it. You don't value it until your shirt won't close. But it was always there, small, simple, unnoticed, but holding the whole thing together, just like people, the quiet ones, the ones who don't stand out. But without them, things fall apart. The button, it's not just plastic, it's presence. And when it's gone, you feel it, even if no one else does. The ceiling, the first thing you see when you stop trying the ceiling. It doesn't greet you. It doesn't wave back. It doesn't ask how your day was. It's just there, high above, still, quiet, unmoving. And yet, it is always the first thing you see when you lie down, when you collapse, when you give up trying to stand tall. I've looked at many ceilings, white ones, cracked ones, ceilings with stains shaped like animals, or clouds, or nothing. There's something about staring up, not into the sky, but into plaster, a firm, solid reminder that above you is something flat and unchanging. The ceiling never moves. It never leans in to listen. It never judges. It simply waits for your eyes to wander upwards when all else feels too heavy. The ceiling is the perfect listener because it says nothing back. You could tell it your secrets, your failures, your grocery list. It won't flinch. It won't sigh. It won't interrupt. It will just remain. I once lay on a wooden floor for what felt like hours, just to stare at a ceiling that had nothing on it. No fan, no decoration, no story, just paint and a bit of uneven texture. But I remember it more clearly than many conversations I've had, because when the world is loud and expectations pile up, the ceiling becomes a temporary escape, a place where nothing is asked of you. You lie down, you look up, and the ceiling meets your gaze with perfect indifference. Isn't that a kind of comfort? To be ignored so thoroughly that you're finally allowed to rest. There is a ceiling in every room, and yet most of us never notice them until we're on our back, sick, exhausted, heartbroken, bored. That's when the ceiling appears, as if it's been there all along, just waiting for you to stop pretending. Some ceilings are higher than others. Some are tiled. Some are cheap. Some leak. Some carry the weight of upstairs footsteps. Some hide secrets, like faulty wiring or half-finished dreams. But all ceilings do the same thing. They contain the space. They remind you that no matter how high you imagine climbing, there is always a limit. And sometimes you need to see that limit to accept where you are. There are people in life who are like ceilings. They don't cheer for you. They don't scold you. They don't say much at all. But they are there when you fall flat. They support the walls. They keep the roof from collapsing. They don't ask to be thanked. But if they cracked, you'd notice. I once stared at a ceiling for 3 hours. I don't remember what I was thinking, or if I was thinking at all. But when I stood up, I felt slightly better. Not because the ceiling said anything wise, but because it stayed and didn't ask me to do anything. That's rare. The ceiling is not inspiring. It doesn't have stars. It doesn't hold magic. But sometimes, just not needing anything from you is enough to make it feel like a friend. So, next time you lie down and your eyes drift upward, take a moment to thank the ceiling for being boring, for being blank, for being there. The fan spins but never moves. The fan, it spins, it hums, it whispers, and yet it goes nowhere. It spins in circles, day after day, summer after summer, room after room. It does not travel, it does not chase, it does not grow. It just spins. We turn it on when it gets too warm. We expect it to cool the air. But more than that, we expect it to stay in its place, working without complaint. The fan doesn't move forward. It doesn't try to be more than what it is. It accepts repetition as a way of life. And maybe that's what makes it so strangely calming. I've sat under a fan for hours doing nothing, thinking nothing, just listening to the soft rhythm of its endless effort that never leads anywhere. That gentle whirring sound. A lullaby of motion without progress. Sometimes I wonder if the fan knows that it's not going anywhere. Does it feel stuck? Does it wish to break free and roll across the floor? Leave the ceiling? Explore the hallway? Or does it find peace in spinning and never changing? Some people are like fans. They show up, they work, they go in circles, they don't travel far, but their presence is steady, reliable, constant. You don't always notice the fan until it's off. Then you feel the stillness, the heat, the silence. You realize how much it was doing without demanding praise, just moving air over and over for you. There's something noble about that kind of existence. No ambition, no need for applause, just service. And when it squeaks or slows down, you feel concerned, not for the fan, but for what it meant to you. A background comfort, a presence that asked for nothing, but gave you everything in its quiet, spinning way. I have fallen asleep to fans. I have spoken to fans as if they were friends. I have stared at them long enough to forget I was thinking at all. The fan is movement without momentum. It teaches us that you don't have to go anywhere to matter. You can stay right where you are and still help someone breathe easier. So next time you hear that soft whir, that low hum, that lazy spin, don't just ignore it. Honor the fan, not for where it's going, but for how long it stayed right there with you. The slippers, worn out, but still here the slippers. They don't have laces. They don't have ambition. They don't take you far. They're not made for adventure. They are slippers, flat, soft, sometimes fuzzy, sometimes falling apart, but always there. They wait by the bed, at the foot of the couch, under the table, on the cold tile floor where you last left them. They don't chase you. They don't call out. They just wait. And when you come back, when the day is done, when your feet are tired, when the world has taken too much, they are still there, ready, open, silent. Slippers don't get celebrated. Nobody posts pictures of their slippers. Nobody shows them off. Nobody says, "Look at these old, dependable things I wear when no one's watching." But they are the ones closest to you, the ones that know your steps, the ones that shaped themselves to your feet without complaint. They don't fit anyone else because they have adapted to every curve, every callus, every tired inch of your weight. They are yours, worn, bent, but perfectly yours. I have had slippers with holes in them, with frayed edges, with soles so thin I could feel the floor sigh beneath me. And still, I didn't throw them away because they were familiar. There's comfort in things that don't change, that don't expect anything new, that simply accept who you are when you walk in the door. Slippers don't judge your day. They don't ask where you've been. They don't care how much you've failed. They only care that you're home. They cradle your feet without asking why they're sore. They warm your toes without asking what the weather is. They stay quiet even when everything else is loud. Some people are like slippers. They don't stand out. They don't get praised. But they're always there, supporting you, absorbing the pressure, never asking to switch places. They get stepped on. They get ignored, sometimes forgotten, until you need rest, until you come back, until you remember what soft really means. And yes, one day they'll fall apart. You'll tell yourself, it's time for new ones. But even the new ones won't feel the same. Not at first. Not until they've been through enough nights and quiet mornings and slow steps to earn their place. The slippers don't last forever, but while they do, they serve with quiet loyalty. So if you have a pair still sitting by your bed, don't overlook them. Slip into them slowly and thank them for being worn out, but still here. The cup, always filled, always empty. The cup. It sits quietly on desks, on kitchen counters, on bathroom sinks, in hands, always waiting to be filled and always ready to be emptied. It doesn't protest. It doesn't demand. It doesn't decide what it holds. Water, tea, coffee, juice, silence. Whatever you pour in, it accepts, and when you drink from it, it gives without resistance. That is the life of a cup. I have used the same cup every morning for years. It's chipped at the rim. The handle has a crack. There's a faint coffee stain at the bottom that no sponge can erase. And yet, it still works. It still holds. It still offers. We take cups for granted. We expect them to be there, to hold things together even when we ourselves are falling apart. The cup doesn't care what you're feeling. It doesn't care how you slept or whether you're running late. It just holds what it's given. And when it's empty, it doesn't complain. It waits until it is filled again. That cycle, fill, empty, wait, is strangely familiar, like emotions, like energy, like hope, always rising, always falling, always coming back again. Some people are like cups. They listen, they carry, they hold space for others to pour into. And when they're drained, they smile, they say, I'm fine. They wait for the next refill. But even cups break, even cups crack, and sometimes what you pour in is too hot, too bitter, too much, and the cup, though silent, begins to show signs. A line along the handle, a chip on the edge, a leak you didn't notice until it stained the table. We rarely notice those signs until it's too late, until the cup can no longer hold what it once carried so easily. I've dropped cups. I've watched them shatter and felt a strange sadness for something so ordinary, because it wasn't just a cup. It was routine, comfort, a piece of stillness in a world that rarely stops. And so we buy new ones, shiny, perfect, clean, but they don't have the weight of the old cup. They don't know your mornings. They haven't sat in the same patch of sunlight day after day. Time gives a cup meaning, not just its shape. So next time you take a sip, pause, feel the warmth, feel the quiet, and thank the cup for holding, for serving, for being always filled and always empty, so you don't have to be. The pen writes until it doesn't. The pen, a slender tube, plastic, metal, maybe wood, inside, ink. That's all. Its purpose is simple: to leave marks, to transfer thought into line, to trace noise into shape. It doesn't ask what you'll write. It doesn't care if it's a grocery list, a love letter, a resignation, or just a doodle on the corner of a napkin. It just writes until it doesn't. I've held pens that glided like they knew my mind. I've held others that skipped and scratched like they were arguing with the page. And some just stopped in the middle of a sentence, in the middle of a thought. No warning, no goodbye, just silence. There is something intimate about the way a pen fades. It doesn't scream. It doesn't snap. It just loses its voice, one letter at a time. Fainter, fainter, gone. I've shaken pens, hoping for one more word. I've scribbled wild circles on the edge of a notebook just to make it come back. Sometimes it does, but it never lasts long. That's the thing about, they give, and they give, and then they stop. No anger, no demands. They just end. Some people are like pens. They carry so much inside such a small frame. They pour out meaning until they are empty. And when they finally stop, we look at them like something's broken. But maybe they simply ran out of what they were holding. In all this time, I keep old pens, ones that don't write anymore. Not because I'm sentimental, but because I remember how they felt when they did. They were part of the story. They helped me find the words I couldn't speak. And now they sit in drawers, quiet, still, but not useless, because they remind me that everything has a time, even the tools we forget to thank. A pen doesn't beg to be remembered. It doesn't demand credit. It simply offers itself to every idea, every impulse, every unfinished thought. And when it's done, it lets go. So if you pick up a pen today, pause, feel the weight of it, feel the silence it holds before the first stroke, then write something, anything, and thank it for showing up, for leaving a mark, for writing until it couldn't anymore. The cloth absorbs what we leave behind the cloth, folded in drawers, hung over sinks, tucked behind cleaning bottles, forgotten until needed. It is not glamorous, not admired, rarely praised. Its job? To absorb, to wipe, to clean what others leave behind. It touches the mess, the spills, the crumbs, the stains, without hesitation, without complaint, without a voice. Some are soft, others are rough. Some smell like detergent, others smell like days gone by. But all cloths share one purpose: to carry what we don't want to see. I've used the same cloth for weeks, watching it lose its color, watching it take on the scent of effort, the texture of repetition. It doesn't resist. It doesn't refuse. It just absorbs. There's something noble in the quiet act of cleaning up, without demanding recognition. Some people are like cloths. They carry the emotional residue of rooms they walk through. They soak up silence. They take in pain. They dry the tears that never fall on their own cheeks. They are the ones who ask, "Are you okay?" but never say when they're not. They hold space. They clean up the emotional spill after someone else storms out. And like the cloth, they get wrung out, hung up, left to dry alone, until they are needed again. I once spilled coffee all over a table. I reached for the cloth. It didn't ask how the spill happened. It didn't shame me for the mess. It just began. That's compassion. Not loud, not flashy, just action. The cloth knows it won't stay clean. It was never meant to. Its purpose is not to remain pristine, but to make something else better, even if it gets dirty doing so. Eventually, the cloth frays. It thins, it tears, and when it can no longer hold what it once did, we toss it out, without ceremony, without thanks. But maybe we should pause. Maybe we should look at that worn-out cloth and remember everything it held for us. All the little disasters it made disappear. The cloth doesn't need your gratitude, but it deserves it. So next time you wipe the counter, or dry your hands, or clean up a forgotten corner, take a moment and say thank you to the thing that carries what you left behind. The remote, always in control, never in charge. The remote, it sits quietly on the couch, between cushions, under tables, lost in blankets, small, plastic, covered in buttons, so many buttons, volume, channel, power, mute, forward, backward, pause, all options, all illusions of control. We press, we point, we expect it to obey, and when it doesn't, We shake it. We change the batteries. We blame it. But the remote doesn't decide. It doesn't choose what to show. It doesn't care what we watch. It just responds to what it's told. It feels like power, but it's not. It's borrowed, temporary, one click away from nothing. I've held a remote in my hand for entire evenings, not changing the channel, not watching anything, just holding it, as if the act of holding gave me some sense that I was steering something. But I wasn't. I was just avoiding choice. The remote lets us pretend that we're in charge, that we can pause life, mute pain, fast forward boredom, rewind joy. But real life doesn't come with a remote. Some people are like remotes. They sit quietly until pressed, until someone needs them to change something. They don't make decisions. They just respond, button after button. And sometimes they get stuck, buttons jammed, signals crossed, batteries low, but nobody checks on them until they stop working. Then suddenly, they matter again. I've seen people panic over a lost remote more than over lost time. We search under cushions, under furniture, as if control only lives in that tiny device. And maybe it does. A symbol of small authority in a world that rarely listens. The remote doesn't ask to lead. It just tries to help you feel like you're not stuck. But when it breaks, we feel helpless. That says something. So next time you pick one up, remember, it doesn't rule the screen. It doesn't create the show. It doesn't own the power. It just holds space for choice. And sometimes, that's all we really want. The plastic bag doesn't belong, but never leaves the plastic bag. Thin, crinkly, weightless almost, yet somehow always there. Tucked in drawers, stuffed inside other bags, blowing down streets, caught on fences, clinging to corners of closets. Nobody buys them to keep. Nobody cherishes them. Nobody frames them. But they stay. We don't know what to do with them. But we don't throw them away. Maybe I'll need it, we say. And so we save it. Again. And again. And again. The bag collects space. It becomes part of the house. Part of the car. Part of the bag of bags you don't talk about, but always add to. It's not beautiful, not useful, not permanent, but somehow it remains. Some plastic bags hold things. Some don't. Some tear on the first use. Some last years. You never know. They weren't made to last, but they do. I have opened drawers and found bags I haven't seen in years, still intact, still crinkly, still waiting for a purpose, like forgotten memories that don't fade, but linger in corners of a mind that never asked them to stay. Some people are like plastic bags, not invited, not celebrated, but present. They drift through your life, held briefly, set aside, rediscovered when you're looking for something else. They carry things for you until they stretch too thin, until they tear, and then you tie them into a knot so they don't take up space. But they're still there, in a drawer, in a memory, in a part of you that never found the courage to let them go. Plastic bags don't leave. They just move from place to place, from hand to drawer, from useful to forgotten to maybe useful again. You see them on the street and wonder where they came from. You see them in the ocean and wish they hadn't stayed so long. But they don't choose. They're carried by wind, by habit, by guilt, and even when you try to throw them away, they return. Maybe not to your home, but somewhere. Because nothing ever really disappears just because it doesn't belong. So, next time you open a drawer and find one more plastic bag you forgot you had, pause and remember, some things don't belong, but they stay. Not because you need them, not because they matter, but because you kept them anyway. The doorknob, always touched, never remembered. The doorknob, round, cold, often metallic, sometimes loose, sometimes stiff, sometimes it turns smoothly, sometimes it fights back, but mostly it's just there. You touch it every day. You twist, you enter, you exit, and then you forget. You don't ask how it feels. You don't thank it for opening. You don't wonder what it holds back. You just turn and go. That's what a doorknob does. It stands between here and there, between inside and outside, between now and what comes next. It holds no opinion. It doesn't judge. It doesn't lock itself. It waits for your hand. Some are brass, some are steel, some are painted, some are covered in the fingerprints from people who also didn't notice them. And yet, without it, you hesitate. You feel the barrier, the resistance, the pause. The doorknob invites movement, but only when you choose. I've touched doorknobs in silence. I've held them too long when I didn't want to go in, or didn't want to leave, or didn't know where I was supposed to go. The doorknob doesn't ask questions. It just waits for a decision you still haven't made. It listens to arguments through the wood. It feels the shake when the door is slammed. It bears the cold of forgotten hallways. But it never complains. It stays. Fixed, stable, turning only when told. Some people are like doorknobs, always there at the transition, helping others move forward without ever moving themselves. They open possibilities. They keep things closed. They protect. They permit. But they are rarely seen for what they are. I once stared at a doorknob for a full minute before touching it. It didn't rush me. It didn't remind me. It simply existed, ready if I needed it. That's grace. Not loud, not shining, not asking, just waiting. So next time you reach for the doorknob, pause, feel the metal, feel the weight, feel the quiet, and remember, it is always touched, but never remembered. The toothbrush starts every morning, ends every night. The toothbrush, it lives near the sink, stands upright, sometimes lies on its side, sometimes in a cup, sometimes in a drawer, sometimes forgotten on the edge. It doesn't move on its own. It doesn't speak. It waits. Every morning, every night, you pick it up, you run it under water, you squeeze something on it, you brush. Not too hard, not too soft, not too long, not too short, just enough to feel like you've done what needs to be done. Then rinse, then back to waiting. That's the toothbrush's life. Routine, predictable, purposeful, until it isn't. Some toothbrushes get replaced every month. Others stay for years, worn, bent, bristles splayed in every direction, still brushing, still trying. It's not glamorous. No one shows off their toothbrush. It's rarely the subject of admiration, but it begins and ends your day. The first thing you touch before words, before plans, before emails, and the last thing you touch before sleep, before silence, before dreams. The toothbrush knows your breath better than most people. It knows the taste of your exhaustion, the residue of your regrets, the flavor of your failures. And still, it shows up. Some people are like toothbrushes, constant, expected, underappreciated. They clean what's left behind. They prepare you for whatever comes next. And they do it quietly until one day they're gone. And suddenly, the day feels strange, incomplete, out of order. I once forgot to pack my toothbrush, and for the whole trip, nothing felt right. That's the thing about what's ordinary. You only notice it when it's missing. So next time you pick it up, pause, feel its shape, its silence, its service, and remember, it starts your mornings, it ends your nights, it never asks for more. The mirror reflects but never sees the mirror. Flat, still, clear when clean, foggy when forgotten. It hangs on walls, sits on sinks, rests on vanities. But no matter where it is, it does the same thing. It reflects, not because it wants to, not because it tries, but because that's what it does. It doesn't choose what it shows. It doesn't filter. It doesn't lie. It doesn't judge. It simply gives back what you bring to it. Your face, your hair, your hesitation, your tired eyes. All there. Every time. The mirror doesn't blink. It doesn't forget. It doesn't change the subject. It just stays still. I've stood in front of mirrors longer than I should have, waiting for something. Not sure what. Sometimes it's clarity, sometimes it's reassurance. Sometimes it's just a moment where everything else disappears and it's just me and the reflection. But even then, the mirror isn't seeing. It's just bouncing light. Some mirrors are cracked. Some are framed. Some are broken in hotel bathrooms. Some are handheld, small enough to slip in a bag. But all mirrors do one thing. They show you what you already brought with you. Some people are like mirrors. They reflect your energy, your thoughts, your mood. They don't give answers. They don't fix. They don't hide. They just reflect. And that's enough. But mirrors get dirty, covered in dust, in splashes of water, in fingerprints from people searching for themselves. They stop showing clearly, and we blame them. We wipe them down. We expect clarity from something we've neglected. That's unfair. But it's what we do. I've looked in mirrors when I didn't want to see myself, when I hoped it would show someone else. It never did, because the mirror doesn't pretend. So next time you glance at one, pause, notice what it gives, and what it doesn't. And remember, it reflects, but it never sees. The pillow, soft for you, heavy for itself. The pillow, always waiting, at the top of the bed, on the couch, in the car for long drives, tucked behind your back, beneath your head, under your sigh. It never speaks, but it hears everything. It cradles your dreams, your thoughts, your tears, your hair, soft for you. always soft for you, but heavy for itself. The pillow carries more than just your head. It carries your exhaustion, your overthinking, your silence at the end of a long day. It never says, "Not tonight." It never moves away. It never asks what you've brought to it. It just accepts. I've held my pillow tightly in moments of fear. I've buried my face in it when I didn't want to be seen. I've screamed into it because the world was too loud. It took it all and said nothing. Some pillows are firm. Some are fluffy. Some lose their shape in weeks. Others last for years. But all of them are asked to carry more than they were made for. Some people are like pillows. They support, they cushion, they don't fix the pain, but they make it more bearable. They don't demand answers. They don't need explanations. They just stay, close, quiet. Pillows know things you never say out loud. They've felt your breath slow down in the dark. They've held the weight of your fears and the shape of your solitude, and still, they stay soft until they flatten, until they stop bouncing back, until they're tossed aside for something newer, fuller, fluffier, and maybe that's okay, because pillows don't ask to be remembered. They just want to be useful while they still can. So tonight, when you lie down, pause, feel the fabric, the give, the way it molds to your weight without complaint. And remember, it's soft for you, but heavy for itself. The sock, always in the pairs, until it isn't the sock, soft, elastic, sometimes warm, sometimes worn. It slides over your foot quietly every morning, and not alone, always in pairs, left and right, two pieces, one function. They move together, they stretch together, they wear out together until they don't. One gets lost in the dryer, under the bed, in the suitcase you haven't opened in months, and suddenly the pair becomes a memory, and the single sock a question. What do you do with one sock? You wait, you search, you hope the other will come back, and sometimes it does, but not always. I've worn mismatched socks, by choice, by necessity, by surrender, because life isn't always in pairs. Some people are like socks. They're there every day. They walk with you. They take the heat. They stay close. But you don't notice them until one is missing, and then the balance feels off. The drawer feels empty, even if it's full. There are socks you keep wearing even when they have holes, because they're yours, because they've been through every step with you, from cold floors to long walks to days you didn't want to stand. They didn't complain. They didn't slip off. They stayed until you peeled them away. And even then, they didn't resist. Some socks get thrown away without ceremony. Others get tucked in the back of the drawer, just in case. Just in case the pair returns. Just in case you need comfort more than perfection. So tonight, when you take off your socks, pause, feel the softness, the stretch, the silence. And remember, they always come in pairs, until they don't. The trash bin takes it all, says nothing. The trash bin always nearby, rarely noticed, often full, seldom thanked. It sits in corners, under desks, next to sinks, by the exit. It doesn't call attention. It doesn't complain. It doesn't ask why. You throw, it catches. You forget, it remembers. Banana peels, crumpled paper, broken things, useless things, things you no longer want. The trash bin takes it all. No filter, no judgment, no rejection, just acceptance. I've stood over a trash bin, holding something I wasn't ready to let go of. I hovered, I hesitated, and then I dropped it in. The bin didn't ask questions. It didn't say, "Are you sure?" It just opened. That's what it does. It holds what you no longer can. Some people are like trash bins. They listen. They hold your venting, your mistakes, your shame, and never bring it back up. They carry what you discard, quietly, willingly, until they're full. And even then, they don't scream. They just wait to be emptied. Trash bins don't get holidays. They don't get cleaned as often as they should. They sit in the background doing a job no one wants but everyone needs. And when they're not there, you notice. You look around, trash in hand, suddenly aware of how much you rely on the thing you rarely acknowledge. I've emptied trash bins with disgust, with guilt, with relief, because sometimes letting go means making room. So next time you drop something in, pause, feel the silence, the space, the quiet generosity of something that holds your mess so you don't have to. And remember, it takes it all and says nothing. The calendar, flipped, forgotten, replace the calendar. It hangs on walls, sits on desks, rests quietly on phones, always nearby, always counting, not aloud, not impatiently, just consistently, square by square, line by line. It moves forward without ever taking a step. We look at it, we circle days, we cross out others, we say, maybe next week, as if the calendar cares. But it doesn't. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't ask why. It doesn't skip the hard days or linger on the good ones. It just turns. I've stared at calendars, wondering where the month went. I've flipped pages without feeling any different. Just paper, just numbers, just time moving because it must. Some calendars are colorful, some are plain, some are filled with notes, reminders, deadlines. Others are empty, still, like they're waiting to be lived in. Some people are like calendars, organized, structured, always moving on. They help others plan. They carry the weight of everyone else's schedules. But when the year ends, they're replaced, hung up new, fresh, clean, until the writing starts again and the cycle repeats. The calendar doesn't resist being forgotten. It knows its fate, used, flipped, discarded, but while it hangs, it holds time, quietly, without recognition, without applause. So next time you tear off a page, or swipe to the next month, pause. Look at the days you lived through. Look at the ones you ignored. And remember, the calendar didn't forget you, even when you forgot it. The elevator button, pushed by everyone, going nowhere on its own. The elevator button, round, square, lit up, sometimes stuck, sometimes delayed. You push it, it beeps, it glows, and then you wait. It doesn't speed things up. It doesn't skip floors. It doesn't take you higher on its own. But we still push it every day with hope, with urgency, with impatience. We push harder when we're late. We push twice like it makes a difference. We tap it as if it needs reminding. But the button already knows. It already sent the signal. It's just waiting like you are. The elevator button is blamed for things out of its control. Slow elevators, crowded cabins, stops at every floor. It never promised a shortcut. It never claimed efficiency. It just sits there, doing its job, quietly. Some people are like elevator buttons, accessible, pressed often, expected to respond, even when they can't do anything about what's happening next. They light up to show they're listening, to show they heard you, even if they can't fix the delay. They absorb the pressure of everyone's timeline, and still, they try to stay responsive until they wear out, until they stop glowing, until someone complains. Then they're replaced, just like that. I've stood by elevator buttons in silence, hoping they would make the wait shorter, knowing they wouldn't, but pressing anyway, because it felt like doing something. That's the illusion. Control through contact. So next time you push one, pause. Feel the click, the brief light, the patient silence. And remember, everyone pushes, but it goes nowhere on its own. The doormat, stepped on daily, welcomes anyway the doormat, flat, rough, covered in dirt, designed that way. It lives outside, in front of doors, at the threshold, never inside, never beyond. Its job is simple. Take the mess before it enters. Shoes scrape, feet stomp, mud, dust, rain. It absorbs them all, and still it says, welcome. Some say it with words, some with flowers, some with nothing, just quiet resilience. The doormat is the first thing you touch when you come home, and the last thing you forget when you leave. But nobody thanks it. Nobody looks down and says, you did well today. It just gets stepped on, again, and again, and again. Some people are like doormats. They stay at the edge. They take the weight. They let others in while staying out. They carry the outside so the inside stays clean. And they do it without complaint until they wear out, until the words fade, until the corners curl, until someone says, this looks old. And then they're replaced, but not before they've done their job 1,000 quiet times. I have stood on doormats on rainy days, trying to clean my shoes, trying not to make a mess. And the mat said nothing, just stayed still, did its work, and let me in. There's something beautiful about being useful without needing reward. So next time you come home, pause, feel the texture, feel the ground, feel the silent greeting beneath your feet. And remember, It gets stepped on every day and still says, "Welcome." The tea bag soaks quietly, then disappears. The tea bag, light, dry, folded in paper or silk, tied with string, small enough to forget, but full of potential. It waits in boxes, in drawers, in mugs, before the water comes, silent, still, holding flavors you won't taste until you let it drown. And when the water comes, it doesn't fight, it doesn't float away, it sinks, willingly, softly, slowly, and releases everything, leaf by leaf, color by color, until the water becomes something else. That's the tea bag's purpose: to give, to steep, to dissolve, then disappear. Some people are like tea bags. They wait, they listen, they steep themselves into others until the whole room feels warmer. They don't raise their voices, they don't rush, they just sit and offer what they have quietly. And when the gear doesn't, they're lifted out, wrung out, thrown away. No ceremony, no thanks, just a wet string and an empty tag. But maybe they don't mind, because giving was always the point. I've watched tea bags swirl in hot cups on cold mornings. I have seen them color the water without needing to be noticed. And I've felt how something so small can change everything. Not with noise, but with presence. So, next time you make tea, pause, watch it sink, watch it open, watch it give, and remember, it soaks quietly, then disappears. The pen cap protects, gets lost, never missed until it's gone. The pen cap, small, plastic, forgettable, often chewed, often missing. It doesn't write, it doesn't mark, it doesn't create, but it protects. It keeps the ink from drying, the tip from breaking, the pen from leaking. And yet, we lose it, often, without noticing, until we need it, and it's gone. Some are clear, some are blue, some click, some snap, some get left on desks, in pockets, on the floor of cars. Some are never found again, and the pen, without its cap, still works, at first, but over time, things change. The ink dries, the writing fades, the tip cracks, because the part that didn't seem important was. Some people are like pen caps, quiet, protective, underappreciated. They keep things whole, they hold things together. They guard the parts we think don't need guarding, until they're gone, and suddenly, we notice the damage. I've looked for pen caps more times than I care to admit. After class, after meetings, after long nights of writing, not because they were valuable, but because they made the pen feel complete. That's the thing about small things. They matter in ways we forget, until we can't anymore. So next time you find one, in your bag, in your drawer, on the ground, pause, feel its shape, its silence, its service, and remember, it protects, gets lost, and is never missed until it's gone. The hanger holds everything but stays empty. The hanger, thin, curved, made of wire, plastic or wood, bent to hold, shaped to support. It lives in closets, in shadows, behind closed doors. It holds shirts, dresses, jackets, uniforms, memories. But when the clothing is gone, it stays empty, exposed, bare, still shaped like it's holding something. That's what hangers do. They take the weight so the fabric doesn't wrinkle, so it stays presentable, so it's ready when you need it. And they do it without being seen until you open the closet. And even then, you don't look at the hanger, you look at what it carries, the outfit, the impression, the armor, not the frame beneath. Some people are like hangers. They carry, they support, they keep others lifted, shaped, ready. And when those people leave, they're left behind, still standing, still open, still shaped for someone else. I've dropped hangers, heard them clatter to the floor, picked them up without apology, because we don't say sorry to the things that hold us. But maybe we should, because without the hanger, everything crumples. It's not glamorous, it doesn't shine, it doesn't move, but it holds, always holds. So next time you hang something up, pause, feel the balance, the tension, the quiet service beneath the surface. And remember, it holds everything, but stays empty. The light switch, always flicked, rarely noticed. The light switch, small, plastic, always where you expect it, next to doors, near the hallway, on the edge of habit. You flick it, up for light, down for dark, click, and then you forget. The light comes on, or the room disappears, and the switch, the thing that made it happen, fades into the background. It doesn't glow, it doesn't hum, it doesn't celebrate when it works. It just does, quietly, until it doesn't. Then suddenly, it matters. You push, nothing. You flip it twice. You shake it. You blame it. But most days, it obeys. And you never say thank you. Some switches are old, painted over, loose, tilted just slightly. But they still work. They still carry what you need from one moment to the next. Some people are like light switches, simple, reliable, rarely acknowledged, but everything moves through them. They make things brighter without being seen, and when they're gone, you fumble, you trip in the dark, you realize how much they were doing without asking for credit. I've stood in rooms where the switch didn't work, where I reached without looking and found only a wall. That moment, the pause, the confusion, the flicker of memory for something you never really noticed until now. That's how quiet service feels when it disappears. We flip switches hundreds of times in our lives, sometimes with purpose, sometimes without thinking, but every time the switch is there, a small gesture, a moment of control, the illusion that we can turn the world on or off with a finger. And maybe we can, for a second. So next time you reach for one, pause, feel the texture, the gentle resistance, the way it waits for you to decide what kind of room this will be. And remember, it's always flicked, but rarely noticed. The fridge magnet, stuck for years, moved by no one. The fridge magnet, small, flat, plastic, sometimes rubber, shaped like a city, a fruit, a quote you've long stopped reading. It clings to the fridge, to memory, to stillness. It doesn't move, not by itself, not on purpose. It is placed once and then stays, sometimes for years, sometimes for longer than the food inside. It holds paper, a list, a photo, a note from someone who doesn't live here anymore. And still, it stays. The fridge changes, the kitchen changes, the people change, the magnet remains. Some are gifts, from trips, from friends, from hotel lobbies you'll never visit again. Some are faded, cracked, peeling at the edges, but still strong enough to hold on. Some people are like fridge magnets, stationary, consistent, unmoving, but holding everything else in place. They don't shout, they don't chase, they just exist in the same spot, long enough to become part of the background. I've stared at fridge magnets while waiting for water to boil, while looking for snacks, while doing nothing, and they stared back, quiet, unbothered, stuck, but not unhappy. The world passes them by. Groceries come and go. Doors open and close. They just keep holding on. Until one day, they fall. And for a moment, you notice the silence where they once clung. The paper they held slides to the floor, and you remember how long it's been since you looked at them, really looked. So next time you open the fridge, pause. Look past the food. Look past the noise. Look at the thing that's held it all together without moving an inch. And remember, it's been stuck for years, and no one moved it. The stair, stepped on to go higher but never leaves. The stair, hard, flat, repeated, one after another. Wood, concrete, carpeted, always there. You step on it, not to reach it, but to pass it, to get higher, to move forward, to escape the ground. It carries you, silently, firmly, and watches you go. No one climbs the stairs for the stair itself. They climb for what's above, the destination, the room, the view, the relief. But to get there, you need the stair, each one, measured, placed, unchanging. Some creak, some echo, some are so smooth, you barely feel them, but all of them take your weight without asking why you're in such a hurry. Some people are like stairs, stepped on, taken for granted, used as a path to someone else's above. They don't complain. They don't slow you down. They just help you climb until they wear, until they crack, until someone trips and blames the stair. I've sat on stairs, not climbing, just sitting, halfway between things, thinking, and the stair didn't mind. It offered a moment of pause. That's something not everything gives you. So next time you go upstairs, pause, feel each step, each rise. each quiet offering of progress. And remember, it gets stepped on so you can go higher, but it never leaves. The bookmark never tells the story, just shows where you quit. The bookmark, thin, paper, leather, string, sometimes handmade, sometimes free from a bookstore, sometimes just a receipt. It doesn't read, it doesn't speak, it doesn't judge the plot, it just holds the place, quietly, faithfully, without needing to understand what came before or what comes next. You open the book, and there it is, waiting, pointing to where you left off, to where the story stopped, to where life interrupted fiction. The bookmark never asks why you stopped, whether you were tired, distracted, bored, or afraid of what was coming next. It just stays. Some people are like bookmarks. They remember the moment you paused. They hold your place until you're ready to return. They don't push. They don't peek ahead. They don't write themselves into the narrative. They just wait. I've left bookmarks in the books for years, moved apartments, changed cities, grown up, and still they stayed in the same chapter, as if frozen in the exact line where I decided I had enough. They don't forget, even when you do. And when you come back, if you come back, they're there, not with answers, but with location. This is where you were, not this is who you are, just this is where you stopped. That's all. Some bookmarks are beautiful, embroidered, gilded, gifted. Others are scraps, faded, torn, but all do the same thing. They honor the pause. So, next time you see one, pause. Think about the story you stopped reading. Think about what waited for you. Think about how something so small held so much space. And remember, it never tells the story. It just shows where you quit. The phone case takes all the hits, never gets the thanks. The phone case. Rubber, plastic, silicone, sometimes clear, sometimes cracked, sometimes bulky, but always there, wrapped around what we value, protecting what we check 100 times a day, guarding glass, absorbing shock, taking blame. We drop the phone and check the screen. Never the case. The case did its job, and we move on. It doesn't glow. It doesn't ring. It doesn't respond. It just covers, quietly. Some people are like phone cases, protective, present, overlooked. They take the fall so someone else doesn't shatter. They get scratched so something more fragile stays whole. They're not the thing we show off. They're the thing we depend on until they wear down, until they stretch, until they don't fit anymore. And then we replace them. No farewell, no gratitude, just a new one, shiny, clean, unscuffed, but not broken in. I've kept old phone cases in drawers, not because I'll use them again, but because they remind me of the falls they took, of the days I wasn't careful, of the moments I dropped what mattered, and something else caught it. The phone case doesn't ask to be seen, it just asks to hold on. So next time you take a picture, or answer a call, or scroll endlessly, pause, run your fingers along the edge, Feel the grip, the wear, the quiet presence that's always been there to take the hit. And remember, it takes all the hits and never gets the thanks. Still awake? Or did you fall asleep somewhere around the missing sock? Either way, thank you for being here, for letting a flat, sleepy voice talk about things no one asked about for far longer than anyone expected. If you have a lonely sock, a fallen button, or a piece of paper you forgot to stick to your fridge, tell me, leave a comment below, and maybe in the next video, your boring little story might become a quiet legend. And if you'd like to keep drifting through these sleepy rambles with me, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next time nothing really happens. I talk, you sleep. Don't bother. But if you bother, that's okay too.